Hey, welcome back everyone. It is now the middle of January of 2022. As we get closer to the release of the Book of Boba Fett Chapter 4, there's been a lot of mixed reactions on the Book of Boba Fett Chapter 3, The Streets of Mos Espa. So I would really like to hear your guys, thoughts on exactly what you thought about that particular chapter and what you think about the Book of Boba Fett in its entirety below in the comments. I know that there's been a lot of people that have been saying that it's not quite as gripping, if you will, as The Mandalorian Season 2. This is Mike Zero. Make sure to subscribe if you're new to the channel for future Star Wars updates. Also, by the way, guys, I am on Twitter at Mike01 if you guys want to go ahead and give me a follow on there. I do make sure to post a couple of entertaining things from time to time and really interact with you guys further. So, what's even all the more exciting has everything to do with the fact of all of the new Star Wars TV shows, the movies, the books, the novels, and the comics that are about to be announced at Star Wars Celebration of 2022 this year, by the way. Hopefully it doesn't get canceled. Hopefully nothing happens that, pushes Disney to cancel that event altogether, because it's going to be by far the best celebration under Disney's wing because of all the announcements coming our way. So, given that we have, of course, George, John, and Dave all working together as a team to really direct Star Wars in a brand new path than ever before and to really turn things around for the better, we really have a lot of passion from these creators, and I think that's one of the main reasons as to why Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett at least feel more Star Wars than the sequel trilogies ever will. And I stand by that statement. I do. The Book of Boba Fett, I will be honest, it is a little choppy in the beginning. There are segments where it could need some work here and there. But overall, I think it's a pretty fun and solid series so far. Some of you are going to completely disagree with me on that, and that's fine. But I think that the next couple of episodes, given that they will be directed by different people, you're going to see a different shift in the overall tone of the series. But I digress. So, now that Disney and Lucasfilm are focused on their new TV shows and movies that will be announced at Celebration. However, it's described that recently many adjustments have been made behind the scenes to the Star Wars universe by Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni in order to regulate the brand moving forward. Now, it's described, however, that in a recent interview with Lucasfilm's Kathleen Kennedy, she went on to talk about Gina Carano and blamed her on multiple things about the Star Wars franchise. Kathleen Kennedy went on to state that, when I examine and see many of the fans getting upset over some decisions we had actually made, such as letting go of Gina Carano as Cara Dune in John's series, they all need to know that this was all Gina's fault. The fan division that we see that happened due to Gina's termination by myself was all because of her and myself, and many over at Lucasfilm will agree that it was Gina's fault as to why we had to do some reshoots for Mando Season 1, as she kept pushing to do her own stunts in which we felt very uncomfortable with her doing that. She was the one responsible for reshoots of the first season of Mando, and she was responsible for the extensive fan division after she was let go from the project by Favreau. I take no responsibility in what happened to the fan division or what had occurred with the reshoots for both Mando Season 1 and 2. So, let me just stop right here for a second. You guys may recall that there have been a little bit of reshoots for both Season 1 and Season 2. It was never really anything alarming. It wasn't anything that significant as Kathleen Kennedy is making it out to be. But she's basically putting all the blame on Gina Carano as to why there were reshoots in the beginning for Season 1 and Season 2. This is something that I particularly don't understand, because when you look at everything related to Gina Carano, John and Dave are the ones that approved of her to do her own stunts right from the get-go. There was really no, back and forth negotiation on whether or not it's good for Gina to do this or whether or not it's bad. Basically Kathleen Kennedy goes on to push this narrative that basically she is the victim. She always plays the victim, and she's never the person that is actually at fault. And it really seems like that this is really starting to go beyond any kind of boundary now. Blaming reshoots on Gina Carano now, this is kind of getting low, even for Kathleen Kennedy in my book. I think that what they have to do is that they really need to just forget about the past, move forward, and just really kind of focus on your goals. And that's exactly what John, George, and Dave are doing. Meanwhile, Kathleen Kennedy seems to be doing the opposite. She's leeching on to the past of what had happened with the fan division, what had happened with the fans' perception of Gina Carano, how there were a lot of fans out there that supported her, a lot of fans, and that's fine. You know, there's going to be people out there that don't like her, and that's perfectly fine as well. So, alright, past all of this was all Gina's doing, she says, and it's something that we have put behind us in the rearview mirror, so she says. Myself letting her go from the series was not just based on her social media posts, but she was very difficult to work with, always trying to do her own stunts and putting us at risk of being responsible for her own injuries was another thing that got very complex. We didn't believe that Gina was as strong as she said she was to pull off her own stunts, but we eventually let her do as she wanted, and it only made the filming of the series take longer than expected when I put on Miss Carano without hesitation. We realized that there are fans who support her as a person, as an actress, but there are those who never really supported her, and that it is something that we had realized. Separate from what Kathleen Kennedy had stated, with Gina set to return for Mando Season 4, Kennedy is trying to prevent her from coming back by having multiple meetings with the higher-ups over at Disney to warn them about her being a very big risk of creating reshoots for a season and delays for TV shows like Mando. Kathleen Kennedy is best described to be very annoyed and frustrated over Jon Favreau's push for Gina's return in The Mandalorian Season 4, which will be announced this May at Celebration. It's something that Kennedy is trying to put to an end very fast. However, Disney realizes that Gina's return would only bring back some of the fans and even reunite a part of the fan base, which is why they are pursuing this to begin with. So, here's the deal about Kathleen Kennedy, alright? We already know that she's had a lot of problems with Gina Carano in the past, even before her Twitter posts of all the things that we are already aware of. There's been a lot of back and forth between Gina and Kennedy, even before she was signed on to Season 1. I mean, in fact, Kennedy did not even want Gina to come on board in the very beginning. She didn't really agree with Jon Favreau's choice of casting her, which, again, I think it just goes to show you that she just did not like Gina Carano for no reason from the very beginning, right from the get-go. So, obviously, I think that this is pretty much a vivid answer here as to exactly who Kathleen Kennedy really is and exactly who she keeps on trying to pretend to be. It seems like that she's trying to be, you know, a little bit respectful here, like that it wasn't all her fault, that it was, you know, pretty much all about just Twitter and her Twitter posts. But when you look at Kathleen Kennedy, right, she is the one that really caused the fan division. It's her. It was all her pretty much, you know, issues right from the very beginning. Sure, you know, Gina made those posts on Twitter, I get that. Some people are gonna hate that. Some people feel like she did nothing wrong. Different people have different opinions. And that's welcome here, I welcome that. But the way that Kathleen Kennedy handled her firing is where things went overboard and is where things went wrong. And that's exactly why there was a big fan division. It was definitely the way that she was fired, but it was also the fact that she was even fired at all. Look at what Pedro Pascal wrote on Twitter. Nothing happened to him. So that's another, you know, prime example of them kind of turning their head the other way and turning their head into the corner and not even paying attention to the other side. So, overall, guys, you know, let me know what you think about all of this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, do make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.
Gun in hand, we are alone again. No hiding from night to moon.